Okay. So my name is Chris. So as we talked in the past, come to this chapter as well as the next chapter about grid letters, we will actually talk about some very advanced topics. So I don't really require you to understand all of them. So I just wait a little bit. So maybe this this is Thursday. I think our exam will be next Tuesday. Right? So when this Thursday, I will exactly tell you what we will test in the exam. Okay, as a precise and as about the issue question I would ask. Okay, but today, well, at the beginning, just enjoy. Uh, try to enjoy the content a little bit. It can be a little bit complicated. So let me do this way. I have the duration of my book. I don't know what it is yet. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, okay. Oh, this looks like nice. Oh, all right. All right. Good. Okay. How to turn the direction. Oops. Okay, yeah. Okay. So yeah, today our topic is about binomial trees. This is a not really originally used practice, very commonly used in computer science. But in our open pricing model, I tend to we tend to borrow some kind of concept from binomial tree because it is very easy to understand. Okay. Here, the key idea for binomial tree is that we want to utilize the non-arbitrary assumption to derive option price exactly. Okay, well, I think the idea here utilize non-arbitrary opportunity assumption to kind of derive some conclusion. You should get familiar with it already, right? When we talk about the future price, we eventually have some formulas like the remote this, right? So the cost of vector will be somehow the R plus R minus Q, something like this. Okay, so we derive that because we derive A, right? Arbitrary opportunity, if you know the non-future of the sum, you will get. Okay, and how to call options, we also have some case like remote call and we short the stop. Okay, we have nothing. We then have two scenarios. If S larger than K or S smaller than K, we eventually conclude that the culture will have lower bound at 0K that you are that, right? So all of them, we derive them using the arbitrary, and by the end, we conclude that yes, in the market, in equilibrium, there should be no arbitrary opportunity, and the fair price is true under this non-arbitrary opportunity assumption. Okay. So in this chapter, in what we will cover right now, we will also use it here. Okay, so let's make the setting first. So the setting is that we have one-step binomial tree first. We have the stock. Currently, the stock price 20. Okay, and to simplify the rule, okay, we don't really talk about like it can go the stock price can go up, go further up, go down, go further down. Okay, we just say there are just two choices. Okay, there are just two results. Either the stock price will go up or go down. Okay, this makes the question very simple. If the stock price go up, let's say the stock price will be 22 at the end. Okay, in a good scenario, and in the bad scenario, the stock price will be 18. Okay, so in this example, just for understanding, we just make a very simple assumption. Okay, the increase is about 10%, decrease is also about 10%. So, well, definitely because we are talking about option pricing, we should have some kind of option. Okay, so let's have some option here. We can have a call option, although we don't know the price right now, but we know it's K which equals to 21. That can help us to determine whether this call option have any exercisable value at the end. So in a good scenario, because the stock price is getting higher than the K, so this call option has some exercisable value. Okay, after we deduct the price we need to pay, okay, the net payoff of this call option should be $1. Okay, so I'm not talking about the net profit, which need to further deduct the call option price. Okay, I'm not talking about that because this one is unknown right now. But at least you should know that comparing the stock price to 22, the 21 is lower, so it is exercisable, and the profit when you exercise the call option should be $1. Okay. So on the downside, okay, if we have the bad scenario, the bad scenario here, the stock price is lower than K, so the call option have no exercisable value. Then the net payoff of holding this call option should be exactly 0. Okay. And what else? Yeah, we also need to specify the time length. Okay, let's assume that the time length is 3 months. Okay, and then let's also assume that the risk of free rate 4%. Okay, well, I always try to make all the numbers very easy to calculate by the end. Okay, you have 3 months, you have 4% risk of free rate. You'll see that it helps to calculate a little bit. So, well, that's all for our setting. So then the next step is that how can we utilize the no arbitrary opportunity assumption to price the option? Okay, now that the only unknown number, and this is what we are really curious about, is the price of the call, right? So we definitely want to find a way, and in previous lectures, we know that non-arbitrary opportunity can be helpful. So, and we have some example here, right? Low cost stock, we can kind of make the arbitrage. But if we just go one call for one share of the stock, we can see that by the end, under the first scenario and the second scenario, the payoff are not always the same, and at the best, we can only get the lower bound. Okay, here we want to get it more precisely. We want to say, we want to exactly get the price itself. We don't just want to get the lower bound or upper bound. Okay, we want to get the price itself. So we need to be more careful. we cannot just only roll one stock, short one call, but we need to make adjust the number, just like what we have the form when we're talking about the sorry, chapter 3. Yeah, it should be chapter 3 when we talk about the optimal hedging ratio. But we need to make the comparison very carefully, calculate the optimal hedge ratio, and by the end, the variance of your asset and the variance of your future contracts will match each other. So our setting should be like this. We will construct a portfolio which include a long position in delta shares of the stock. Okay, delta here is a number. Okay, like how many shares of stock you want to long. Okay, to match the uncertainty with the delta share of the stock, we say we will short just one call option indicated above. Why did you write it update? Okay, radically it gives. Okay, well, so we can carefully adjust the number of stock we have here. And if you like, you can also say you long one share of the stock and short some number of options. That's also okay. We just want the number here to be precise. Okay, so our eventual target is that we want this portfolio to be exactly confirmed. So we want it to have no uncertainty. So here the idea is that we want this to be a riskless portfolio. Okay, no matter how the stock price goes, okay, if the stock price going up, the short call option will bring us some boost, and if the stock price go down, the short call option just do nothing. Okay, by the end, we want that this portfolio should bring us a riskless return. Okay, we want it to have this outcome. So then we can have some equations. Okay, if the portfolio is totally riskless, that means in the good scenario, the portfolio value will be sum. Then in the bad scenario, the portfolio value will be also sum. Then the value in the good scenario and the value in the bad scenario, these two should be the same if we make the portfolio totally riskless. Okay, this is a key part. This is a key trait in this model. So the key part here can also be expressed in a mathematical way. The key part can be explained like this. So in the good scenario, if you long delta share of the stock, one share of the stock was 22, then the total portfolio value will be 22 multiply delta. Oh, the lag is so like don't use the the stock value will be 22 multiplied delta. And then because you short one call option, in the good scenario, your call option was $1. You short it, you will lose this $1. So you do -1. Okay. This is the total portfolio value in the good scenario. And if this portfolio is totally riskless, then the portfolio value under the bad scenario should also be the same as here. Okay, in the bad scenario, your option is worthless. That's okay. You ignore it. Then the only thing remains is 18 multiplied delta shares. It's a bit lucky. Okay, Sorry. Second. Okay, so you can see the equation here, this delta minus 1 equals to 18 delta. So this is our like mathematical way to express our setting. So we want to make this portfolio totally risk free. Then the portfolio value must fulfill this equation. Okay, and now you have one equation. Okay, you have one unknown, and you can easily solve this equation to get the number. Okay, 22 minus 1 equals to 18. So you move 1 to the right hand side, and you have the delta in this side. So you will easily solve that delta is actually 0.25. Okay, about 1 volts. So that means what? Means under this binomial tree model, if we just know 0.25 shares of the stock and the short one option, we will exactly have a riskless portfolio. Okay, this riskless portfolio will ensure that we will exactly have the same outcome, no matter we made the good scenario or made the bad scenario. Okay, after I say all everything, still not updated. Okay, anyway, you can also check this. You can also check this. This in the Bible, all the comments are almost the same. Okay. So now you know that this risk of this portfolio consists 0.25 shares, one option, and you know that you know the delta. So you can also calculate the total portfolio value by just replace the delta in the previous equation, right? In the previous equation, 22 delta minus 1 equals 18 delta. Okay, each side, left-hand side or right-hand side, they are about the total portfolio value. Okay, you just put this delta back. You can see that on the left-hand side or right-hand side, the total portfolio value should be 22 multiplied 0.25 minus 1 or 18 multiplied 0.25. So the total portfolio value at the end, okay, at the end should be 4.5. Okay, and until here, the conclusion is still not very fast. Okay, we just calculate an optimal number of shares we need to hold for this research portfolio, and we know that okay, with this 0.25 shares of stock, we can have about 4.5 total portfolio value at the end. And okay, please recall that this portfolio is a riskless portfolio. Right, that means this 4.5 is the outcome of a risk-free investment. Okay, if this is a risk-free investment, we can definitely discount this risk-free investment outcome to none. Right, that means we can say total portfolio value now this should be the 4.5 multiplied E negative 0.04 3 over 12. Okay, this is risk-free rate, this is the length of time. Okay, you will get some number looks like this, 4.455. Okay, that means, so if by right this portfolio is risk-based, then current value of this portfolio is 4.5, then by right, you should invest 4.455 at the beginning to eventually get this $4.5. Okay? And magically, until here, we are still talking about the gain on like 3 months later. Okay, we never use any numbers right now. Okay, and if magically we use some number right now, we can also say that okay, by checking the future values, we know that the fair present value of this portfolio should be 4.455. And right now, we can also use the numbers here, okay, and 0C here to talk about our investment right now. Our investment right now should be like this. Okay, we spend 20. We spend 20. Feel like I need to go for a bigger one. Yeah, this is not like at all. Okay, so we have 20 for each stock if you want to buy it at the beginning, and you buy 0.25 shares. Okay, 0.25 is delta, and you short this one call option, so you will receive the call option price. Here, if 20 multiplied 0.25, this is your spending. Okay, if you receive anything, you need to deduct this number from your what you receive from what you spend. Okay, so minus C. So this is your total spending for this portfolio at the beginning. Okay, and following the previous conclusions, you have 4.5 and have the present value here. This initial spending should be exactly equals to the total portfolio value now. Okay. And the 20 multiplied 0.25, this should be about 5. Okay, and you have 4.455 here, so you will conclude that the C here should be 0.545. Okay, so here we actually finish our story here. The call option in the previous example, in this binomial example, we can derive the call option price equal to 0.45. Okay. Now, so next, I want to kind of generalize this model a little bit. Okay. So instead of using all the numbers here, I want to use the letter notations. Okay. So let me rewrite the model a little bit. So the model is about how R0 right now, an option, which is a price, F. Okay, so because after the generalization, we don't need to really know whether this is a call option or put option. Doesn't matter. Okay, this model can be easily used in put option as well. So just to not let you confuse, okay, I use another notation, okay, just to make sure that you understand that the model can be applied to both Colombian and truth options. So I just say this is something like called F. So this option will cost you F, and you have two outcomes. The first outcome is the good outcome, like S0 will increase a little bit. Let's say that the scale of increase is U, okay, R, U for R. So the stock price will multiply this ratio, so it will eventually end up as S0 U. Okay, in the previous example, numerical example here, from 20 to 22, here you can think about 22 like using S0 multiply U equal to 1.1. Okay, so on the other side, we use D, okay, D for down, okay, to know the eventual stock price on the that scenario. So that payoff of this option, we note is like FU and FD. Okay, here the U and D are not some multiplication. These two are subscripts. Okay, just to note the option value in the upper case, in the downward case. So risk-free rate, let's say R, and then the time length, let's say T. Okay, those two we are familiar with very well. Okay, so then the previous example can be explained this way. So 22 delta minus 1, this should be 22 is the S0U, right? So S0U multiply delta. So one is net payoff of call and the good scenario. So we should minus U. Okay. Then here the 18 delta. 18 is actually S0D. Okay, delta here. Okay, well, we also need to have minus FD because here we don't have a minus FD just because the net payoff on the downside here is 0. So here we kind of omit this part. In the other scenario, sometimes in the bad scenario, your option still has some value, just maybe lower than the previous case. Okay, in that case, you still have the FD here. Okay, I didn't do anything. Okay, I didn't do anything. I'm just replicating the formula here, some notation here. Okay. So we can make the derivation just like we have previously. Okay, using this equation get the delta. We can also use this equation get the delta. Okay, we move FU to that side, move S0 the delta to left hand side, divided the term. Okay, we will have delta equals to FU minus FD divided S0U minus S0D. Okay, this is the 0.5 we have previously. Okay. Okay. Furthermore, if we go to the next step is calculate the total portfolio value at the end. The total portfolio value, we can just take any side of this equation. Okay. Just for example, take this. Take this side, and then the total portfolio now. Okay, right. I just omitted the step. Should be F0 U delta minus U discounted with risk-free rate. Okay, this part understand, right? And we can match the total portfolio value now, discounted from the future value with the exact current spending we have here. Okay, 20 multiplied to 5. Basically, this is F0 multiplied delta minus option cost would be F. Okay, this should equals to the total portfolio value now here. Okay, as 0 u delta minus. Okay. So the last step is to solve this equation, get the price of this option. Okay, in previous example, we get the price of C. In this example, we should get the price for this app. Okay, can be the representation of either of the option. So make some movement at 0 to here, leave F to that side. Okay, so we can do it this way. F0 delta to this side, then here F0 delta, F0 U delta is negative RT. So F0 delta is the shared component. And have F0 delta 1 minus U E negative RT. Okay, and then minus no, plus. Okay, because I have reverse sign a little bit. So for the plus F U D negative RT. Okay, so yeah, right. So we can replace the delta in the conclusion here. It will make the equation a little bit complicated. So more like this. F0. Is U minus D at 0, U minus 0 D. Okay, at least here you can cancel out the right? That's something convenient. Okay, so we can further simplify this a little bit by take the FUERT into the equation, so it looks like this. Okay, you only have U minus D here. Then you will have FU D negative RT multiplied U. FU minus U minus FU plus FU. We put the FU inside. So you have FU UE negative RT minus UDE negative RT. And you can cancel some term. So here you have that minus FUERT, you have plus FUERT. Cancel these two. Okay, nothing else we can do. So we have four terms, FU, FD, FDUER, FUE negative RT, FUE. So the control one looks like this. Okay, FU1 V plus D plus U D U Okay, so simplify to this term. That is here. Okay, that is the any everything part. Well, here we have some trick. Actually, the trick is to use the so-called elementary replacement. I guess it's more or less you have this content in your calculus class. Okay. Well, I learned calculus in Chinese, so I only know that this one Chinese is so-called 换元法. Okay. So you can use this technique to define a new component. This new component, let's call it P. Okay, we call it P for purpose. Okay. If you define the component carefully in this way, so this P you define like ERT minus dn divided by U minus D. Okay, you put them back, you will magically find that this new component P can simplify the definition for F into a very easy formula, which looks like this. Okay, you first take an ERT out. So inside it's a P F U plus 1 minus P F P. Okay, so after you see the conclusion, you can easily know that why I define the P here. Okay, because if I define the P here, the F expression can be looks like a calculation of this expectation. Okay, the P here looks like the probability of upward movement, and the 1 minus P well, for the binomial for this is the probability of upward movement, right? And FU is your outcome in the good scenario, FD is your outcome in the bad scenario. Multiply them with the probability. That's exactly what you learn in high school, how to calculate this expectation. Okay, and very nicely, this equation also have this discount factor. So you combine the two future outcomes using probability, discounted using the risk-free rate. You exactly get the present value of this option. Okay, logically, this formula is very and perfectly accordant with our concept, right? You have something in the future that you discount it now. We're using this discount factor and how to calculate the expectation, probability, one scenario outcome, another probability, another scenario outcome, right? Okay. So until here, I didn't do anything new despite defining a new component P. Okay. Until here, I'm just replicate our previous process, okay, from this equation to the eventual corporate price, okay. Well, but throughout this notation-based explanation, we can kind of have some interesting conclusion with the P here, okay. Let's come back to the previous example. So the previous example, we have all the numbers. We definitely can calculate the P in the previous example, right? So in the previous example, okay, I can also refer to the Bible. In the previous example, the P can be calculated using E 0.04, 3/12 minus D. In the previous case, from 20 to 18, the D is about 1.9. Okay, the U from 20 to 22, the U is about 1.1, so minus 1.9. Okay, using the calculator, you get something like 0.5503. Okay, and you can also verify the result using the following equation. Okay, you use R equals to E minus discount factor 0.5 minus 3 by 1 plus 0.4497 multiplied 0. FD is basically 0 in the previous model. Okay, you will see that exactly you still have the same 0.45. 545. Okay. So still, I'm not doing anything new. I'm just replicating the example using notations. So, and the benefit for having the P here is very clear. So the P here can be explained in this way. This is the probability of upward movement. You can see that this is actually one quite a magical part of the whole example. So in the beginning, we never assume the probability of upward movement or downward movement. We never say that. Okay? In a conventional binomial procedure, we should define the probability for upward movement, the probability for downward movement, so that by the end we can calculate the expectation of a binomial procedure. But here we never do that. We just strategically keep silent. Okay? And just based on our outcome, we can magically calculate the P here. Okay, here, okay, if your brain power is still there, if you still have any brain power remaining, okay, let me explain this to you shortly. Okay, this is because in your P measure here, you have risk-free rate, scale of upward movement, scale of downward movement. So by comparing all of them, they will implicitly tell you, like in current market situation, the movement to upward will be more likely or less likely. Okay, so let's have one example. Okay, if the risk-free rate is not 4%, but 40%, okay, then this ERT must be very large, right? This P will also be very large. That means what? Means if you assume that the 3 months later, the stock price will increase from 10% or decrease from 10%, and the risk-free rate in the market is actually terribly high, then comparing to its current stock value, the upward movement probability should be also very high, and the downward movement probability should be very low, so that the current stock price is affected. Okay. And any questions? Any questions? Okay, let me ask you in the other way. Can you understand it now? Can you understand it now? Okay. If not, I'll translate for you later. Okay. So let me finish one more part. Okay, I'll give you a translation. About 2 minutes, I will give you translation. Okay. So with the P, the probability measure there. Okay. We know that the outcome of the outcome expectation of F can be expressed in this way. Okay. This part I understand. This part is high school math, right? Of calculating expectation. Okay. Well, this we keep playing our game in options. Okay, but we can definitely get this game back into stocks because this P is the measure for upward movement probability. Right. This is the measure for the stock's upward movement probability. This should apply to the stock itself. So if we talk about the expectation of stock, okay, the stock's expectation can be right like this. It should equals to P as 0 U plus 1 minus P as 0 E. Okay? So I0 U, I0 D, you know that there, right? You know that there. Okay? And if we replace the P, substituting P, okay, we substitute P using the measure. So then we can have P at 0U minus P at 0D. Okay, P is RT U minus D multiply S0 U minus D plus D. Okay, cancel these two terms. S0 ERT minus S0D plus S0D. So eventually you will have S0 ERT here. Okay. Well, so the purpose to have this is we say that the P is the probability of upward movement. Okay, and if we insert the P into the definition of stock price expectation, we find that this P actually indicates that the stock price is calculated in a risk-free manner, in a risk-free one. Or put it in this way. So if you use P to be the measure of upward movement probability, then you are actually measuring the stock price in a risk neutral mode. Okay, we know that the stock is actually risky. Okay, it can move to 22 or move down to 15. But if you calculate its upward movement probability using P using 0.55 here, you are actually assuming that the stock is in a risk neutral. This is counterintuitive, and put it back to the example. You can find that in the example here, we never say this, that the world is a risk neutral world. We never say that. We just keep silent about it. So basically, that means it can be a normal one. It can be a real one that that is like everyone should normally risk averse. Okay, just their risk averse level can be high or low. Okay, and that means we would require high risk and high return. Okay, but if you use the p value calculated in this example more precisely, the p value extracted from option pricing, this p is the probability in a risk neutral. That means this P is not really the fair one you should use for calculating the stock price, but this P is the one that only suitable for options. Okay, here, okay, let me finish this part. Okay, I can translate for you a little bit. Okay, so here the one very surprising conclusion we have here for the risk neutral valuation is that although the pricing for the stock for any risky asset should involve the measure for investors' risk averse level, but when you measuring the derivatives the derivative prices, you can price them in a risk neutral world and exactly use the risk neutral world's valuation in the real world. They should be the same. Okay, this is a very counterintuitive case because if you're thinking about the stock, if if the stocks so if the stocks expectation is about 21, okay, from 20 to 21 after 1 year, then you may have your sense, you may have your own like dividend discount model, free cash flow model to determine that whether the stock's current price is too high or too low. because you in the dividend discount model or free cash flow model, you have R on the denominator. Okay, this R represents the risk you tolerate in the process. If you tolerate very high risk, you should require high return. This is very common for risk-averse people. Okay, that means the stock price can be low if everyone is very risk-averse. But if everyone is just very neutral, feel that the risk is nothing, is uncertain, that's okay, we don't care, then the stock price would be relatively high because now for the high risk, people don't really require high return. Okay, this is the scenario of the stock, but for options, this does not exist. Okay, for options, whether people is risk averse or risk neutral, doesn't matter. You will still get the same price, 0.5 to 5. Okay, this is one very surprising but the key part of options. Only if you have all the previous captions content, you will more or less have a sense about this content. I understand this is very complicated. Okay, so I will translate for you. I'll translate for you. OK，这个 binomial tree 啊，叫做中文叫做二叉式模型啊。它如果你是 finance 这个的话，你很少的接触到，因为本身这个在 derive 这个 DSM financials 或者 model 也好包括之后和金融相关的结论也好，这个 model 一开始并没有用到如果我们有时间的话，我稍微说一下如果说的他们怎么去得出那个结论，他们得出的是他们使用的文字方法去做。但是我们从计算机去借来这个 model， 因为它特别好用，而且可以把这个问题显化到一个可以比较好明白的一个部分。OK， 然后这个 model 是这里的然后这个 model 最重要的一个部分就是需要 construct 这个所谓的无风险投资。这个无风险投资呢，其实就是我们之前用来 derive 各种结论时候用到的，对吧？我们之前 derive 这个 future fair price 那个 F0 F0也是 S0 是这个 RT cost of carry 这些，我们去 derive 这些结论不是因为说，如果 F0 不在它的这个风险价格不在它这个 fair price 上面，然后我们一定是可以套利，对吧？如果 F0 高，或者 F0 低，我们一定可以去做套利。然后到了 options， 我们在定义 option lower bound 的时候，也用了套利的。OK， 对吧？然后到了上周我们讨论 bear spread 和 bull spread 的时候，我们也讲了，如果你把 bear spread 和 bull spread combine 在一起，那么它们互相损失和收益抵消，最后会形成一个叫做 box spread。这个 box spread 它的 return 就是一条直线，无论 stock price 高还是低，它的 return 就是一条直线，也就是说它是一个 risk free， 对吧？所以也是借用之前所用的所有的关于这个套利、关于这个 arbitrage 的这个 idea， 我们在这里 construct 这个 research。我们唯一做的比较新的部分是我们这里不光把 long short 做好，我们还要在这个数字上下点功夫。这个数字我们没有忽略，这个数字我们之前在 optimal high ratio optimal high ratio 一定这个 high ratio 是说sigma s 和 sigma f 如果你的现货价格波动比较大，而你的期货价格波动比较小，那你觉得 optimal high ratio 是相对大的，是不是需要用更多的 future contract 去害你现货的波动，对吧？虽然这个也是，我们知道这个 call option 在同一定的这个股票波动这个 scale 之下，这个 call option 给我们带来利益远比后的这个 stop 要多，对吧？所以如果想要这个long short 节省它的损失和收益完全抵消，形成一个无风险，那我们一定要在这个数字上下功夫。我们不光要在这个方向上，你这个股票只要价格上升，是收益的。然后股票价格上升，靠这个收益那就上了当，所以说股票价格上升，这个冒这边收益上这边会受损失，对吧？你这个方向选对，这个投资组合多少互相对冲一部分这个损失和收益，但是让他们最后达到低风险，你一定是要把这个数字调到这个 比较合适的一个数值。那如果它是无风险的话，这里设定了一个无风险投资组合的一个好处是我们一旦有无风险投资，我们就可以列一个等式，把 good scenario、bad scenario 好情况、坏情况下的这个 portfolio value 画一个等号，对吧？好的情况下，22这个卡减一，对吧？22是说最后的目标价格，一是这个最后的这个 option 价格。你少了它嘛，就是损失；你忘了它的这种这是那个revenue 收入的这个高 OK，还有它是你的 good scenario 下的 outcome，然后这是你的 bad scenario 下的 outcome，OK，然后你的这个很简单的一个 US 方程算法能法律思维，也就是说，在这个例子里面，如果我们有这两种情况，那么想建立一个无风险投资组合，这个无风险投资组合一定是持有1/4股加上一个 call。OK，然后我们一个非常简单的一个，当时就可以得出来的结论就是，我们既然有这个没有把，我们可以把这个德尔塔带下去，带到任意一边，带到任意一边，我们可以得到这个在期末的时候，total 和的 portfolio 是什么怎么样？对吧？我们把德尔塔带到这边，好像这个我们肯定都得到这个是在期末的时候，如果我们这个 portfolio risk free，那在期末的时候，无论这个情况是好还是坏，我们都是这个 portfolio risk。然后 risk free 的好处在于，你有这个 risk free rate，对吧？你 construct 了一个 risk free portfolio，它既然是一个无风险投资组合，它给你挣的收益一定是无风险利率，那么你就可以用无风险利率非常简单的把这个期末的 portfolio 的这个投资组合总价值折现到期初，然后你把折现到期初就可以在减速。OK，那从这个 equation 到这个结论到这个部分，我们其实一直在期末玩这个游戏，还完全没有谈到期初，我们只是谈到了期末价值比相等，对吧？delta，然后用代价值带来的期末价值，知道它期末的这个价值是什么数字，然后最后把它折现到现在。我们一直在用期末这个数字在做这个东西，对吧？但是期初我们还有一些数字，我们完全可以从期初的数字去考虑我们期初到底有多少投资。我们期初为了设定这个 risk portfolio，我们需要买1/4个股，对吧？然后我们一股20，1/4股20成立股份，然后我们上这个 call option 意味着我们会收到那个 non call option 的没有我们期权费用，所以这个是减 C 嘛，所以这一组整个这是我们通过期初价值算出的，在这个无风险投资组合上花的所有总共钱数吧。好吧，这个不风险化总共钱数一定是要等于我们从期末计算过之后，然后折现到现在的这个价格，所以我们就有这个一个，然后通过这个一个得到这个 C 的标准，这个 cost 价，也就是说，在这个 example，OK，我们只是这是一种，你可以把它想象成一种解决方法，虽然它并不是解决方法，OK，但是下面都一个诺哈，问你有什么解决方法？在上面这个东西之下，我们有这些数字，其实足够让我们去推出这个 option 的关系，好吧？然后后面我们其实就是用这么用这些标记去把这个 equation 重新又做了，然后做了一遍到这里，然后因为这个公式比较麻烦，所以我们就把它简化一下，我们做个还原法，把里面一些常用的元素总结成这个 P，然后这样的话，这个 F 就会形成一个像计算匹配期望的形式。这不就是你期末的在第一个好情况下这个 F 的收益，在坏情况下 F 的收益，这是好情况出现好情况的概率，这是出现坏情况的概率，这不就是算匹配期望吗？高中数学吧，初中数学，同学，OK，然后我们再做这个 balance，我们还需要有一个折现啊，我们还在说negative T，把这个期末的总期望折现到期初，这个就是现在的价格。所以简化了一下这个部分到这个部分，看起来还是挺简单的，对吧？当然看起来挺简单的，我们可以用这个简单的提问做出一些比较有意思的东西，比如说我们可以 这个时候重新算一下这个 P 值。但是在之前这是因为数字我们都已经调好了，所以数字非常简单，我们也不需要去算这个 P。但是如果我们想要把它 generalize，想要把它抽象成一个这个对靠分也好，对不靠分也好，对成像高分、阴的八高的八点都可以用的一个模型的话，那么我们可能还是要借助这个 P 去简化一下我们计算。那在这个模型里面，这个 P 值大概是1.5左右。这就意味着什么？意味着我们掌握了一个非常神奇的一个东西。正常的 binomial crossing 就是 binomial crossing 应该说叫什么？二项分布。对，这个正常的一个二项分布是说这二项分布有success 或者 fail，然后它一般定义二项分布是不会说这个成功的概率这个 p 是多少。但是在我做这个模型时候，我都没有提，我没有提这个成功概率是多。对，我完全没有提，但是最后我可以用某种方法推出来这个概率，这个是非常 magic 当然，这个 magic 的部分，如果你脑子如果转得够快，你其实可以想到为什么我有这个 magic，因为你有这个 risk of risk，有现在这个 sum 都很加的。OK，所以你假设说这个 risk of risk 100%，那我告诉你这个 P 值已经非常高，因为如果这个 risk 现在 risk of risk 100%，想要让这个 sum price 维持在20%，然后它以后一定就是两种情况，22或者18，那它变成22的几率肯定是特别大的，变成18的几率肯定是几乎接近0，对吧？所以正是因为你有 risk of rate 和 sum price 在这里，所以你不需要在这里设定 P，那个 P 其实是隐含的，你只要靠一些去推就可以估出来，好吧？这个是一个这个 P 值，然后到了最后这个 risk neutral valuation，因为这个 P 值其实是从期权的这个价格，或者说这个 X 甚至不只是期权，如果你最后看到那个模型，我们叫的就是pricing model，实际上你把这个东西换成那个期货，换成这个 future 也是可以就是我们一直在这个衍生这个定价的公式里边用这个 P，但是这个 P 本身我们可以看出来，它描述的其实就是上涨或者下跌的概率。这个上涨和下跌的概率本身，不仅影响你这个 F，不仅影响你这个衍生品，还影响你人物现货。那我们就把这个 P 带回去，带回现货的这个 expectation 公式，看看它能有什么效果。然后我们把这个公式带进这个定义，我觉得应该还是能接受，对吧？这是你这个股票期末的在好情况下期末价，这是你股票在坏情况下期末价，这个是好情况的概率，这是坏情况，它是一个 expectation，这个是 OK 的，对吧？然后我们把 P 带回去之后，我们发现，如果我们用这个 P 值算进去，这个 ST 这个股票期末的期望值是将 S0投资在一个无风险资产上下，也就是说什么？说明这个 P 是一个在不考虑风险，或者说在风险不影响股票价格的情况下，得到了一个上涨和下降的概率。OK，然后这个地方就是思维有点跳跃的地方，就是我们从这个地方得出来的一个结论就是，这个 P 值我们可以拿它去算这个 F，然后拿这个 P 值算这个 F 的过程中，我们完全没有考虑到现实的这个投资者到底有多大的风险压力。我们知道风险压力的水平，就是整个市场上的平均的风险压力水平，一定是会影响你啊这个资产的价格的，对吧？如果所有人都风险压力，然后你这个假如咱做一个比较，对吧？我不确定你是不是特别了解风险压力是就是假如说你一个资产，它只是20到21年，然后另外一个资产呢，它是20，可能25，可能23，可能20，可能18，但是它的expectation 还是20，这不就是一个是风险资产，一个是风险资产但是算 expectation，它俩是一样的。哎， 那如果这个市场是所谓的风险中心 risk neutral，那你会发现大家会花费同样的20块钱去买这两个资产，因为就是大家对风险其实在 risk neutral，大家风险不在 high risk 无所谓，不需要 high return，就不用 return。但是为什么我们现实社会有这个 high risk high return 这个 principle？因为实际上所有人都是风险压力，对吧？像大家从常理推断，大家都知道，相对于这个其实不是那么值，对吧？虽然它的 expectation 也是20，但是相对于这个能 confirm 给大家是，它有可能给你20，有可能带来18啊。如果它的 fairly 它期望值是21的话，感觉好像就是同样投20块钱，这个让我更痛苦，这个给我一个稳稳性，对吧？所以在现实社会里，如果说你这个两个 expectation 都一样，都是20，那么在这种情况下，有 uncertainty 的情况下，大家给的价格都是比20小，大家可能会花18或者19，而不是花20。但是说到底，为什么现实为什么现实会有 high risk 的情况，我要求 high return，要求现在花更少时间去达到这个同样的期货价格？因为我们都是风险项目，我们是觉得这个市场上任何投资产品一定要给我们更多的 compensation，如果我们去 tolerate 更多的 risk，对吧？我如果承担了更多的风险，还是要得更高，我觉得这才合理，这是人的一个常识，对吧？所以对于这个股票也是。股票的价格呢，一定是应该是受到整个市场上平均的一个风险压力水平影响。如果平均风险压力水平高，它应该高；如果对风险压力啊，这个才会成这个价格相对现价会相对高。但是非常神奇的虽然整体的平均的风险压力水平一定会影响任何资产的价格，但是它们并不一定会影响衍生品的价格。你看到最开始，我们有设定这个整个市场风险压力水平吗？没有，那是因为我也没说这个市场，而且我们最后算出来这个 P 值，实际上是一个风险中性实验 P，因为你拿这个 P 值带回 stock 的话，你会算出来这个 stock 的这个期望值是一个无风险投资的期望值，也就是说，这个 stock 会虽然有些变化，虽然它其实是有风险的，但是如果你用 P 去算这个 stock 的这个期望值，你这个 stock 期望值是一个无风险的目标，也就是说，在这里，如果你用 P 去算，这个 stock 根本就没有去考虑风险价物，也就是说，这个价值你在这里算到的是一个风险中性世界里的股票价值。OK，这个 ES，这个不是那个20，这是一个不知道什么的东西，这个是假的东西。OK，我们没有一个具体数，没有一个具体数，但是你这么算，你只要按这个定义去算，这个价格其实是一个无风险投资价值，也就是说，这个 P 是一个无风险，就是也不是说无风险，是一个风险中性世界下的一个上涨的概率。然后我们在这个过程中用一个风险中性世界下的上涨概率，来得出了一个在正常世界可以用的期权的价格，这个就叫 risk neutral 关系。你去定价这个感觉不需要考虑现实世界的 risk profile，甚至不需要考虑现实世界各种这个大家的 preference，不需要，你只要按一个风险中性的模式走下来，就可以得出来一个公允的价格。这就是一个特别反常识，但是是很真实的东西这个叫做风险中性预价，这是可以说是两种最神奇的一啊。行，来到点儿签到啊，陈思阳，OK，陈星宇，哎，好久不见，陈玉，陈玉，absent，范映红，范兆祥，OK，戴经纬，高翔，OK，黄子轩，OK，黄埔军旗，absent，张文浩，黄埔，OK，李云达，林启涵，OK，林玉和， OK，申其上，OK，问你孙胜豪，孙胜豪，send，孙伟白，OK，吴一晨，徐峥是杨成浩，OK，梁正彦、赵佳楠、朱浩然、朱晓涵，OK，OK，好，thanks，OK。我忘了。